Kaluit Manakajak, Mr. Lightstone. Kaya na may makakti, uglumi, nunaling nugawa makupidit sa kaktit, Minister Kauyi Mangmut, ikayokti yugama, kau makutiliong nangmut, akituluang itumit nunagume, Minister Kauyi Mangmata, taman na ang ikotikangmat, Canada Infrastructure Program Atani 2018 175 million makinaw yakaktit silutik kaw makutiliog na kinaw yakakitaw ng anut takwa kinaw yakaktit
in whole or in part from fossil fuel-based systems to renewables. Mr. Speaker, it is my understanding that the Department of Community and Government Services decides which entities will receive support under the Arctic Energy Fund, and it is also my understanding that the only entity to have been allocated funding to date is the Kudluk Energy Corporation, which has been using the money primarily to build diesel-fueled power plants. I'd like to ask, can the Minister clarify exactly how the Government of Nunavut determines how to allocate resources from the Arctic Energy Fund? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Community and Government Services, Mr. Jonassy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for the question. Mr. Speaker, the Arctic Energy Fund, we do work with Kudluk Energy Corporation on this agreement through Infrastructure Canada. Kudluk Energy Corporation, as I understand it, is responsible for identifying projects to prioritize through this funding program. We do have already allocated the entire 175 million that is currently allocated for Nunavut at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
First supplementary, Mr. Lightstone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a number of my colleagues have been raising questions about the status of alternative and renewable energy initiatives in their constituencies. Earlier in our fall sitting, my colleagues from Qaluit-Sina spoke about the public meeting that we both participated in concerning the potential for renewable hydroelectric energy for Qaluit. And my colleagues from Ugviat South, as well as Hudson's Bay, have both spoken extensively about the alternative energy projects in their own constituencies. Mr. Speaker, a number of these projects are being led by municipalities and Inuit-owned organizations. Mr. Speaker, it's my understanding that, according to Infrastructure Canada, hamlets and Inuit organizations are eligible to receive Arctic Energy Fund monies. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister, what do our municipalities and Inuit organizations have to do to have these Inuit-led community renewable energy projects be considered for the selection of Arctic Energy Fund projects? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Community and Government Services, Mr. Jonassy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I again thank the member for that question. Mr. Speaker, we are definitely open for options to consider the broader and greener alternative energy that as an innovation and the technology is there and how we can tap into that Nunavut-wide. We will continue to work with our counterparts at Kudluk Energy Corporation in this area and identifying with other agencies that have an interest in these projects in the future. We will engage with them as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Second and final supplementary, Mr. Lightstone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the Minister's response. Mr. Speaker, over the last number of years, Kudluk Energy Corporation has struggled to solicit bids on tenders which continue to pose major ongoing delays to the work of upgrading and expanding diesel systems utilizing this Arctic Energy Fund monies. Mr. Speaker, earlier this fall, I heard a representative of Kudluk Energy Corporation speak on the radio stating that Kuluk Energy Corporation is not investing in renewable energy and encourages the private sector to do so. Mr. Speaker, as the Department of Community and Government Services allocated all of Nunavut Arctic Energy Fund allocation to the Kuluk Energy Corporation, and given that Kuluk Energy Corporation is struggling to proceed with these projects, I'd like to ask if the Minister would consider creating a contingency plan to allow the allocation of Arctic Energy Fund monies toward private renewable energy projects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Community and Government Services, Mr. Jonas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a funding program through the federal government, and we do have agreements in place. So to his question, we can consider those as options. And going forward, I think in the future, there is tremendous opportunity and around renewable and funding towards that will help with greenhouse gases, because I mean Nunavut does have a very small footprint when you look at the global stage, but we do need to show that we're doing our part as well. So I think there's interest there, not just within the government, but organizations, as the member stated, and municipalities. But we'll continue to work with our primary client. We are working with Kuluk Energy Corporation, and they do identify which projects that they'd like to prioritize, and we'll continue on that path. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.